The locals of Ravenford had long whispered about strange shadows moving against the direction of light footsteps, slithering across the cobblestone streets with no body to claim them, mirrors reflecting someone else's life. Entirely, but nothing, absolutely nothing, terrified them more than the saga of the phone number that answers itself. It began decades ago, long before smartphones and digital screens. Back in an era when a ringing telephone at midnight usually meant news of death or an emergency. The number had no name attached to it, no listing in any directory, no source known to any operator. Yet it existed, written into the bones of the town like a curse that refused to fade. People claimed that if you dialed it, you wouldn't hear a ring. Someone, or something, would pick up instantly, breathing softly, like it had been waiting specifically for you. And though everyone had heard the rumors, most dismissed them as folklore, until 22-year-old Claire Hemsworth decided to test the myth on a night when the rain pounded so loudly on the windows that her living room felt submerged beneath a stormy sea. Claire was a skeptic by nature, a non-believer who considered ghost stories as mere entertainment for gullible minds. Yet she had always been oddly drawn to forbidden things. When she stumbled upon an old note tucked inside a library book, a brittle piece of yellowing paper that simply read, "Do not call this number, 707-676-0099, she felt an electric curiosity burn through her like a lit fuse. She tried to laugh it off, but her hands trembled with a bizarre urge. She needed to know what would happen. That night, wrapped in a blanket with thunder rattling the roof, she dialed the number. No ring, no delay, just immediate connection and open line. Not silence, but breathing slow, wet, dragging breath, close enough to her ear that she felt a chill ripple down her spine. "Hello," she whispered, trying to steady her voice. The breathing stopped. For a moment she thought the call had dropped, until she heard a faint whisper, so faint she wasn't sure if it came from the phone or from behind her. Claire, her name, spoken with a familiarity no stranger should possess. She dropped the phone, heart pounding, but the call didn't end. The speakerphone glowed, and the voice continued. "Found you." The lights flickered violently, and in that brief strobe of darkness and illumination, Claire saw, reflected in the window across from her, a tall shape standing behind her, her silhouette with unnaturally long arms, its head bent sharply to the side as if its neck had been broken long ago. But when she spun around, no one was there. The call finally disconnected by itself, leaving a hollow tone that vibrated through the house like a funeral bell. Claire convinced herself she had imagined everything, perhaps the darkness, the storm, and her restless mind had played tricks on her, but that night she dreamed of the same voice whispering her name again and again, each time closer to her ear, until she woke, gasping for breath. In the following days, Claire began noticing uncanny details, her phone ringing with no caller ID, static-filled voicemails containing nothing but that same dragging breath and the reflection of a figure standing just barely outside her peripheral vision whenever she passed by mirrors. Worst of all, she discovered that her phone logs showed outgoing calls to the number, dozens of them, despite her never dialing it again. She tried to delete the number, block it, even change phones, but it remained in her recent calls list, like a parasite refusing to release its host. When she visited the town historian, he told her the legend's origin. Decades ago, a woman named Lila Hargrove, known for dabbling in forbidden rituals, attempted to contact her dead husband through a seance that went horribly wrong. Instead of reaching him, she invited something else, an entity that attached itself to the phone line, eager to answer any incoming call. It mimicked voices, revealed names and secrets it shouldn't know, and once someone called it, the entity marked them. Leela eventually vanished, her body never found, but the phone number she used, 707-676-099, remained active, feeding on whoever dialed it. The historian's eyes darkened when Claire confessed she had called it. "You must sever the connection," he warned, "before it steps fully into your world." But the entity was already crossing. One evening Claire heard her landline ring, even though she had disconnected it earlier, a slow, deliberate ring. Against her better judgment, she approached. The phone's cord dangled uselessly, cut clean, yet the handset vibrated. She picked it up with trembling fingers. "I'm close," the voice hissed. She threw the phone across the room, but it continued ringing without sound, but vibrating with a pulsing, heart-like rhythm. The next night, she barricaded her doors and stayed awake until dawn. At 3:07 a.m., her cell phone buzzed. It was a text from her own number. "I'm inside." She dropped the phone, terror freezing her bones, and slowly turned toward the hallway. Standing in the dark, half hidden behind the corner, was the tall figure, its head tilted, its limbs stretching the shadows unnaturally. With every blink it moved closer, its movements jerky, as though reality struggled to hold its shape. Claire grabbed a hammer from her toolbox and smashed her phone, but as soon as it shattered, all the lights in her house turned off. The darkness felt thick, alive. She heard the sound of footsteps, low, deliberate, approaching her. She ran to the attic, slamming the door behind her, but the footsteps followed, stopping just on the other side. Then came the voice, whispering through the wood, "You invited me the moment you called." Her phone, broken into pieces, buzzed in her pocket. Against all logic, the cracked screen lit up. Incoming call, 707 to 676, 0099. She refused to answer, but the call answered itself. "I've been waiting for you, Claire," the voice whispered, now layered with multiple tones, like countless whispers speaking through one throat. The attic grew ice cold. Her breath fogged the air. The shadows twisted, merging into the shape of the entity. She pressed herself against the far wall, tears streaming, as the entity stepped forward, each movement bending the air around it. It lifted one elongated arm, reaching toward her. She screamed, closing her eyes, but the voice whispered one last chilling sentence, soft and satisfied. "Now you belong to the line." The next morning, Claire's house was silent. Her phone lay in pieces, but one shard glowed faintly with a single text message answered. The police found no sign of Claire, no forced entry, no footprints, no struggle, only her phone logs, which showed her number placing a continuous call to 707-676-0099, a call still active even though the phone was broken. The townspeople, terrified, whispered that Claire had been taken, just like Leela claimed, by the entity bound to the phone line. Since then, anyone who attempts to dial the number meets the same fate: whispers in the dark, the sensation of being watched, reflections revealing more than they should, and eventually, the sound of their phone answering itself. And if you ever hear breathing on the other side or your phone rings from your own number, pray that you never hear the words, "I am inside." Many still believe the number lurks in the shadows of telecommunication networks, eager for curious minds and wandering fingers. They say the entity craves connection, feeding on fear, and once your voice touches its realm, it follows you through every screen, every reflection, every ringing phone, even if you never call again. So if you ever stumble upon a mysterious number with no name, no origin, no history, do not call it, because some numbers don't wait for you to answer. They answer themselves.